This is lesson 9 of 20 lessons on how to build a Joomla website. If you're starting here, it's not going to make much sense, so go to the first lesson of this course by looking for the playlist link or a link to lesson 1 on this page. This is the last step in the standard Joomla installation process. Before starting, make sure you have the database details that you created in the previous lesson. Now open your web browser and navigate to the web address where you uploaded your Joomla files. If you uploaded the files to the main folder on your hosting account, you would just enter your domain name. But if you uploaded the files to a subfolder on your account, you would need to add that folder name to the URL. For example, the domain name I'm using in this course is joomlavideodemo.com. So I would enter www.joomlavideodemo.com. But if you uploaded the files to a subfolder on your account called, say, Joomla, you would go to www. whatever your domain name is /Joomla. When you arrive at this page, Joomla recognizes that it hasn't been set up yet and redirects to the web installer, which looks like this page. Step 1 is to choose a language. This is just used for the installation step, so it doesn't affect any content you create later. I'll go with English and click the Next button that appears in the top right. The installer then checks your web server to make sure that Joomla will run successfully. In Lesson 3, you learnt there are certain requirements for using Joomla. If any of the items in the top box are marked as No, then you should stop and ask your host if they can be resolved before you proceed. The first 4 items are the really important ones, so make sure they are all showing yes. There are also recommended settings listed in the second box. If any of these are red, then you can continue. Click the Next button in the top right and read the license details. Then click Next again. Now enter your database details. These are the database details that you specified in the previous lessons, not something else such as your FTP details. The first setting in the drop-down box can be left at MySQLi, or if this doesn't work when you navigate to the next page, try setting it to MySQL. Unless your host has told you otherwise, the host name is localhost, so enter that here. Then enter the database username you created in the username box. In my case, I used Joomla v5_runner. Then the database username password. Next, enter the database name, which in my case is Joomla v5_video demo. A random combination of letters is displayed in the table prefix box, and there's no need to change it. Leave the last setting and click Next. And as long as you enter the correct details, you'll see this screen. The FTP layer is not necessary if you're using a Joomla-friendly web host. It can cause more problems than it's worth if you get the settings wrong. So to simplify this lesson, let's keep this set at No. But if you have trouble completing the installation, then this might need to be enabled. And this process is demonstrated in the next lesson. So for now, click Next. Now give your site a name. And enter your email address. You also need to create a username and password which is used to access the back-end administrator part of the website. You can see that a default username of admin is entered. But for the best security, it's a good idea to change this now. So enter a new username. I'll use Coyote and a password. When selecting usernames and passwords, ensure that you choose something different to what you've used elsewhere. For example, you'll have a more secure setup if you use a different password for administrator and a different password for your database. Ensure you make a note of this username and password. The last step is to install some sample data. This is a really good idea when you're starting out, and I'll be referring to this data throughout this course, so go ahead and click the Install Sample Data button. This will take a second and then tell you that it's been successful. Click Next. As you can see, Joomla has now been successfully installed. However, before you can view the site, you need to delete the installation folder. Simply click this button and then click the Site button in the top right to view your newly installed site that contains some sample data. You might like to spend a few minutes looking through the pages. So your exercise for this lesson is to work through the web installer. Once again, I recommend you to get our companion workbook, as this makes it easy to follow along. Go to www.buildajoomlawebsite.com and look for the book on the home page. As long as the installation was successful, you can now move to Lesson 11, where I walk you through the front end of the website. In the event that you had problems with the installation, please watch the next lesson, where I give you some troubleshooting tips.